Why did she always arrive before everyone else, even after working until 3 in the morning? Maya wiped the back of her hand across her forehead, the Nevada desert sun already pressing down with a heat that seemed to shimmer and dance above the cracked earth. Her body should have been heavy, weighed down by exhaustion and caffeine withdrawal, but instead she felt that familiar, restless pull that always brought her here. The range, the rifles, the silence between heartbeats before a trigger break. This was where the noise of life went quiet. She set her gear down with precision born of habit, rifle case, range bag, battered thermos, and knelt in the dust, the movement almost reverent. For her, shooting was never about bravado or competition. It was focus, breath control, a test not against others but against herself, against limits. Yet today she felt the air shift before she even looked up. A different kind of noise, Marines, active duty, the ones who carried themselves like the dirt under their boots bent to their authority. A familiar voice called out. Staff Sergeant Tommy, all grins and nervous energy, jogged over. His gear clanked with every step, his face shining with that eager mix of humor and dread. You see those jarheads setting up on lane 12. Been running their mouth since they got here. Maya didn't bother glancing over. She was methodical as she unpacked her rifle, her hands steady even as the dull throb of her caffeine headache pressed harder. What are they saying this time? Same old story, weekend warriors, pretend soldiers, something about how guys like us should stick to barbecue grills and video games. Tommy smirked, shaking his head. I told them you eat their arrogance for breakfast. Maya's lips twitched, not quite a smile. Her rifle gleamed as she slid it free from its case. A Remington 700 customized part by part, every piece earned from years of saving bartending tips. She didn't need flash. She didn't need issued equipment or computerized toys. Her rifle was hers, an extension of her breath, her will. The Marines across the lanes weren't just practicing. They were performing. A cocky corporal with shoulders like stone and a voice that carried too far had gathered a small audience. His words floated on the hot desert air. See, precision at distance isn't about luck. It takes training, years of it. Wind speed, humidity, barometric pressure, even the Earth's rotation. This isn't something you learn plinking beer cans out back of some trailer park. The words cut deeper than he knew. Trailer park. As if struggle was a stain, not a teacher. Maya's jaw tightened, her mind flashing to the cracked wood of her grandfather's porch, the first rifle he had handed her, the soft steadiness of his voice as he taught her about patience. She stood before she even realized she'd made the choice. Her rifle slung casually over her shoulder, her voice clear. Actually, the effect only matters at extreme ranges. Most real engagements don't require that level of correction. The corporal turned, eyes narrowing, the condescension already curling in his grin. And you would know this how, sweetheart. Something hot surged through Maya's chest, but her voice stayed calm, controlled. Because I've been shooting since I was 8, and because I understand physics better than most people understand their morning coffee. Laughter rolled through the Marines. The corporal shook his head as if amused at a child. Trailer park, fine, let's make this interesting. He pointed to a target that shimmered in the distance, so far it barely registered to the naked eye. That's our 3.5-kilometer test plate. Nobody touches it. Military snipers spend their whole careers never daring to try it. But since you're so confident in your physics. The crowd stirred. Whispers, some smirks, a few skeptical glances. Maya shaded her eyes, squinting at the speck in the distance. The current world record, she knew, was a Canadian sniper who had made a confirmed hit just past 3,540 meters with a full team supporting him. That had been considered almost impossible. This was essentially a dare against gravity itself. What's the bet? She asked. If you even get close, within 50 meters, we'll pay every one of your people $100 and apologize right here. But if you miss, the corporal leaned back, arms crossed. Drinks are on you, And you admit weekend warriors belong on weekends. Tommy tugged at her sleeve. Maya, don't, that's not even, this isn't a real shot. But she was already calculating. The wind, steady southwest about 12 miles per hour. Elevation difference, target at least 200 feet higher. Heat shimmer meant variable air density. Bullet drop at that distance, tens of meters. Yes, she'd need it. 4 seconds of flight time, maybe a touch more. She could almost see it, the arc, the slow descent. Deal. Word spread fast. Lanes cleared as shooters abandoned their own targets to watch. The range master emerged from his shack, arms folded, skeptical curiosity written across his weathered face. Even the Marines who'd been smirking looked less certain now. Maya settled into position, her body finding its familiar rhythm. She extended her bipod, slid her cheek to the stock, pressed her eye to the scope. Tommy lay beside her with a spotting scope, his breathing uneven. I can barely see it through glass, he muttered. Maya, this is insane. I can see it, she whispered. The target wavered, swallowed, and revealed again by heat mirage. But it was there. The range grew still. Conversations died. Even the cocky corporal fell silent. It was only her, the rifle, the desert air. She closed her eyes, breathing slow, imagining the shot. 4 seconds. A world of movement in those 4 seconds. Wind, earth spin, bullet drift, the pull of gravity like an invisible hand. A problem, but a solvable one. Her crosshairs settled. Her lungs emptied. She found that fleeting pause between breaths where the body holds itself still. She squeezed. Time stretched. The bullet hung in the air, invisible but traceable in her mind's eye, flying its arc through heat and distance. 4 seconds became forever. Then, holy Maya, Maya, you hit it, dead center. Tommy's voice cracked, disbelief giving way to awe. The range erupted. Marines scrambled for scopes, shouting over one another. The range master barked into his radio. The word confirmed echoed back, tinny but undeniable. The target was struck. Center mass. Maya sat up slowly, ejecting the spent brass, catching it as it bounced free. She felt disconnected. The cheering, the laughter, Tommy practically dancing beside her. It was all happening at a distance, like she was watching herself from somewhere else. The corporal's face had drained of color. He muttered something about impossibility, about how nobody made that kind of shot without a team. Maya met his eyes, calm, quiet. Without what? She asked softly. Without a penis. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel, it was thunderous, cathartic. Marines slapped each other's backs, some grudgingly respectful now. The weekend warriors whooped, triumphant. But Maya just stood there, the brass casing warm in her palm, her heart strangely heavy. Because even in triumph she felt the unease. She had solved the problem. She had proven them wrong. But something inside whispered that shots like that didn't go unnoticed, not in a world where power was always listening. 3 days later, that whisper proved true. It was just after 2 in the morning, the bar dim and quiet. When the back door opened, though, she knew she had locked it. Why hadn't she double-checked the lock? Maya's hands froze over the register, the sound of the back door creaking open, slicing through the quiet of Rusty's bar like a blade. Her first instinct was irritation. Some drunk had wandered back where they didn't belong. But when the voice came, calm and direct, every muscle in her body went rigid. Maya. The name landed heavy in the stillness. Not "Hey bartender," not "Miss." Her name spoken like a fact, like a file being read. Her hand slipped instinctively toward the baseball bat stashed behind the counter, but she forced herself to turn slow. The man from the corner booth stood framed in the doorway. Same whiskey glass she'd poured him hours earlier untouched at his table. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't tired. He wasn't like anyone else in here. And now he wasn't alone. 2 others flanked him. One a sharp-eyed woman with hair cut short and steel gray. The other a younger man who moved with casual menace. His jacket heavy on one side where something was holstered. Maya's pulse surged, but her voice came steady. "We're closed. Try reading the sign next time." The older man stepped forward, shadows sliding off his face. His eyes were dark, commanding. "General Kane, United States Army Special Operations Command." He spoke like each word was an order. "We need to talk." Maya's fingers tightened on the edge of the register. "About what? How you broke into my bar?" Kane didn't blink. He set a tablet on the counter, tapped it, and rotated the screen toward her. Her breath caught. On the display was satellite footage. The Nevada desert sun glaring off dust, zoomed in, enhanced her, lying behind her Remington, breathing out, squeezing a trigger, 4 eternal seconds before a bullet found its mark. "This was 3 days ago," Kane said evenly. "We monitor training ranges, reconnaissance satellites, standard." His mouth twitched almost like a smile, except there was nothing standard about this. The gray-haired woman spoke next, her voice crisp, precise. "Colonel Sarah Mitchell, Army Intelligence." Her eyes locked on Maya's, assessing, weighing. "That shot has been analyzed by our best ballistics experts. By every model we have, it was impossible." Maya folded her arms, leaning back against the shelves of liquor. "Then your experts need better calculators." The younger man shifted, clearly unused to being dismissed. But Kane held up a hand, silencing him without a word. His gaze never left Maya. "You don't understand. What you did changed things. The kind of people who can reach beyond 3 kilometers with instinct alone, they're rare, very rare. And right now, the world has exactly one of them operating unchecked." Her mouth went dry. "One of them." Kane's voice dropped. "The ghost." Mitchell slid the tablet, a new set of images appearing, blurred stills, distances, crime scenes. A NATO general sprawled on marble steps. A French intelligence officer collapsed in his own garden. An Israeli operative crumpled beside a smoking car. Each caption listed range, each more impossible than the last. 2,847 meters, 3,100, 3,200. Maya stared, the air thickening in her chest. You think I can do what he does?" Kane leaned closer, scars catching the dim bar light. "We don't think, we know. And as of 800 this morning, you've been activated for immediate deployment. Emergency Mobilization Authority." The words slammed into her. She laughed sharp, defensive. "I'm reserve. I pull weekends and 2 weeks a year. I have a job, a life. You can't just—" "Had a life," Mitchell cut in coldly. "This isn't optional. Your skill has been deemed critical to national security." Her chest tightened. "I'm not a sniper, I'm a bartender." Kane's voice hardened. 3 months ago, the ghost killed a NATO general at a range our best said was impossible. Weeks later, he proved them wrong again, and again. Now he's escalated. Next week, 12 world leaders, including your president, will gather in Switzerland. The venue was designed to be sniper-proof, but the ghost doesn't play by normal rules. He plays by yours. The room tilted slightly as the weight of it pressed in. Her grandfather's face flickered in her mind, the weathered lines, the rifle cradled in his arms, the quiet words. "Sometimes the world asks more of us than we think we can give." Her voice broke. "And if I say no?" Kane didn't hesitate. "Then you'll come in cuffs, but I'd rather you came willingly." The silence in Rusty's bar stretched. The neon beer signs hummed faintly. Somewhere outside, a motorcycle roared down the empty highway. Mitchell slid the duffel across the counter. "Pack light. We leave in 20 minutes." The SUV's tires crunched gravel 6 hours later as dawn burned pale across Virginia woods. Maya had slept only in shards, her mind a carousel of doubt, disbelief, fear. More than once she'd convinced herself this was a dream. But every time she'd looked at Kane in the driver's seat, the scars told her otherwise. The building they approached was concrete and anonymous, tucked behind chain link and brush. It looked abandoned, but Kane's words were heavy as they climbed out. "Welcome to Site 7. Officially, it doesn't exist. Unofficially, it's where we train people to do impossible things. Inside, the air buzzed. Walls alive with screens and feeds, satellites tracking half the globe, analysts murmuring into headsets. The sharp, efficient hum of a place built to cut shadows with sharper shadows. Maya felt like she'd stepped into a movie she didn't belong in. A lanky man with thick glasses and hands rougher than she expected approached, lugging a rifle case the size of a coffin. His grin was crooked, genuine. "Dr. James Park, ballistics. I've been replaying your Nevada shot for days. Still can't figure how you pulled it off." Maya shook his hand absently, her eyes on the case. "Lucky, maybe." Park chuckled. "Luck doesn't explain 3,500 meters with a hand-built rifle. Come on." He popped the latches, revealing a weapon that looked more spacecraft than firearm. Sleek lines, digital readouts, a scope that seemed to breathe. XM2010 enhanced, modified with our best tech. If anything can give you an edge against the ghost, this will. Mitchell arrived with a folder so thick it looked like it carried more weight than steel. She flicked it open, sliding photos across the table. Victor, 34, former Russian Olympian, officially dead in 2019, unofficially reborn as the ghost. His pale eyes stared out of the photograph, smiling faintly as though the camera hadn't earned his seriousness. "He doesn't look like," Maya faltered. "A terrorist," Mitchell's voice was flat, "the best never do." The briefing unfolded like a nightmare. Berlin, Paris, each strike more audacious, each range beyond comprehension. Windows no wider than dinner plates. Alley gaps barely 3 feet. No witnesses. No evidence but a casing left behind with a tiny ghost etched into its brass. Park leaned in, voice low. "He wants us to know it's him. That's the point. It's art to him." Kane's voice rumbled like stone. "Next week, 12 world leaders will sit behind a wall of glass on a mountainside. The ghost will be there. We'll have counter-snipers, surveillance, drones, but at the ranges he plays with, none of it matters, unless we have someone who can match him." Mitchell's gaze locked onto Maya. "That's you." The folder slid closer. Her hand stayed at her sides. She thought of the bar, of neon lights flickering over empty stools, of laughter, of normal. "What if that shot was luck?" Her voice cracked. "What if I'm not who you think I am?" Kane's face softened, not much, but enough. "In my career, I've watched men fold under pressure and others rise higher than they believed possible. The difference isn't talent, it's focus. When the moment comes, you won't think about failure. You'll think about the mission." 12 faces stared up at her from the file. World leaders, presidents, ministers, human beings, and in their shadows, the ghost. Maya swallowed, her throat tight. "Then start teaching me." Kane's lips curled into the barest smile. "Now you're thinking like a hunter." 5 days later, the helicopter cut through thin alpine air. The Swiss mountains sprawled below like a chessboard waiting for its first move. Maya pressed her face to the glass, eyes tracing every ridge, every outcrop. Her body was heavier now, the gear unfamiliar but carried with growing instinct. The XM2010 rested beside her like a promise and a curse. "Target area 2 minutes out," the pilot called. Mitchell leaned across the cabin, pointing through the window at a gleaming structure carved into stone. The resort. Its glass conference room jutted from the cliff like a jewel, panoramic views in every direction. Beautiful exposed, a sniper's dream. "Why not move the summit inside?" Maya asked. "Politics," Kane's voice crackled over comms. "Transparency, symbolism, all that. Leaders hiding in bunkers sends the wrong message." Maya's eyes stayed on the glass bubble clinging to the mountainside. "The wrong message is 12 coffins." No one answered. As the helicopter banked toward the staging area, Maya's stomach dropped. Hundreds of soldiers, vehicles, surveillance towers humming. All of it, the armor, the guns, the walls, felt useless against a man who turned distance itself into a weapon. Kane's voice crackled again. Meet your spotter, Sergeant First Class Lisa. A compact woman stepped forward, her handshake firm, her eyes green fire. Heard about Nevada. Impressive. But I also heard you've never worked with a spotter. I usually shoot alone, Maya admitted. Not anymore, Script was iron. Out here I'm your eyes, you're my trigger, we keep each other alive, clear. Maya nodded, though inside doubt gnawed. She wasn't a soldier, she wasn't supposed to be here. But 5 days ago, she hadn't been supposed to make an impossible shot either. And yet she had. How do you hunt someone you can barely believe exists? The ridge was cold beneath Maya's elbows, the granite pressing hard into bone through the thin fabric of her uniform. The sun glared off the Swiss peaks, throwing bright knives of light across the glass bubble of the resort below. Somewhere inside, world leaders were preparing speeches about peace, transparency, and unity. And somewhere out here, a man was preparing to turn those speeches into funerals. Maya adjusted her scope, breath steady, heart not. The world narrowed to crosshairs, heat shimmer. At 2,800 meters, the resort was a fragile jewel against the valley, a place designed for beauty, not survival. Beside her, murmured, voice clipped and calm. 17 possible sniper hides within 4,000 meters. Counter-snipers are in place at each, but their effective reach tops out at 1,500. Which means if the ghost wants it badly enough, Maya's eye stayed glued to the scope, he'll pick them off one by one. His jaw flexed, and then us. The silence pressed down, wind whispered across granite, radios crackled with distant check-ins. Maya forced her breathing into rhythm, fighting the old ache of doubt. She had made one impossible shot, once, a trick of physics, timing, instinct. But this was Nevada, this was war. Her grandfather's voice returned, low and steady in memory. Sometimes the world asks more of us than we think we can give. She blinked hard, refocusing. I can't think like a soldier. Shot her a sidelong glance. What's that supposed to mean? It means if I try to be something I'm not, I'll fail. The ghost is an artist. He sees this. She gestured with her chin toward the vast chessboard of peaks and valleys, not as battlefield but as canvas. Studied her for a beat, then nodded. Fine, paint me a picture. Maya settled back to her scope. Every ridge was a possibility, every shadow a hiding place. Her fingers brushed the rifle's stock, grounding herself. She traced lines, angles, sight paths, imagining not where she would hide, but where he would. Her breath hitched. Northwest ridge, 3,200 meters, rock outcrop, prone silhouette. His voice sharpened instantly. I see it, human shape, hard to confirm, range 3247. Maya's pulse surged, but her voice stayed level, eyes on. And then she saw it, a flash, subtle, the telltale kiss of sun off a muzzle. He's not aiming at the resort. Her voice was tight. He's aiming at us. The first round shattered rock 3 feet to her left, granite shards slicing skin as she rolled to cover. Another crack split the air closer. The sonic boom pressed against her skull, disorienting, intimate. Contact, his voice ripped into the comms. Northwest ridge, grid 847 by 392, effective sniper fire 3,200. Maya's chest heaved, her rifle clutched tight against her. The ghost wasn't shooting at leaders, not yet. He was hunting her. How the hell does he even know I'm here? Maya gasped. Doesn't matter. Was already dragging gear behind a boulder, movements efficient despite incoming fire. He's got us zeroed. We need to relocate. But even as bullets smashed into granite, tearing shards into the air, Maya saw something else. A rhythm. She blinked, watching through slivers of cover. 43 seconds. He fires every 43 seconds. Glanced at her, sweat beading along her temple. And it means he's calculating every shot perfectly. He's not rushing. He's playing. Another crack. Another burst of stone. This one closer. The ghost was walking his shots toward them like breadcrumbs. Over comms, Kane's voice thundered. All counter-sniper teams converge on Northwest Ridge. Priority target is the ghost. No, Maya shouted into her mic. Negative, he's baiting us, forcing movement. If we relocate, we'll walk into his kill box. But Kane's voice came back iron. Hold position. We're sending air support. Maya's stomach twisted. Her scope picked up the whoop-whoop of rotors as a helicopter crested the ridge, coming in fast. Too fast. No, 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 she whispered, crosshairs snapping to the ghost's outcrop. She saw the flash just before it came. Brake left, brake left. But it was too late. The ghost's bullet found the tail rotor with surgical precision. Metal shrieked as the helicopter spun, whirling, screaming into the valley below. The fireball blossomed against snow and stone. 6 lives gone in seconds. Maya's breath trembled, rage and horror surging in equal measure. Her voice when it came was steady, almost cold. Do you believe me now? Kane's voice crackled back, grim. What do you need? Her eyes narrowed, scanning the field. Every instinct screamed at her that this wasn't about the summit. Not yet. The ghost had come for her, to erase the one person who might match him. I need you to stop trying to rescue me, she said, her voice low, deadly calm. He wants me, let's give him what he wants. His head whipped toward her. You want to duel him at 3,000 meters while he's shooting at us. Maya's jaw tightened. My grandfather used to say you only find out who you really are when the world asks more than you think you can give. Well, she slid her rifle back into position, eyes pressed to glass, the world's asking. Stared, then nodded once. Fine, then I'm spotting. Maya's hands moved like machines, adjusting turrets, calculating drops. 3,200 meters, beyond doctrine, beyond expectation, the edge of physics itself. Wind 8 to 12 miles an hour shifting, temperature dropping, mirage heavy. Another round cracked overhead, the ghost's rhythm unbroken. She marked it, 43 seconds until the next. Her voice was steady. He's predictable, I can use that. Frowned how? Draw his fire, force him to rush. He's perfect because he's deliberate. Break that rhythm and I'll have my shot. You want me to be bait? Hissed. I want you to trust me. Seconds bled, 20, 10. Now. Popped from behind cover, a ghost herself against granite. 2 seconds of exposure. The ghost fired early, too early. The bullet tore fabric from her sleeve but missed flesh. Maya's crosshairs lit with muzzle flash, his position burning bright against shadow. Send it, whispered. Maya exhaled, the world falling silent, crosshairs steady, finger gentle. The rifle bucked. 4 seconds stretched to eternity as the bullet traced its arc across air, invisible but real, physics and instinct fused into faith. Impact. A figure jerked, slumped. Hit. Gasped, relief breaking through. You got him, Maya, you. But Maya's gut twisted. It was wrong, too easy, too theatrical. Her scope stayed steady, eyes narrowing. That was a mannequin. As if summoned, comms crackled. Overwatch 7, target position confirms decoy. Repeat, decoy. Maya's blood chilled. She swung her scope just in time to see the real flash, East Ridge, nearly 4,000 meters away. Down, she shouted, lunging. The bullet screamed past, slamming into shoulder, spinning her sideways in a spray of crimson. Maya dragged her close, hands already pressing on the wound. His lips were pale, her breath ragged. Vest caught most, I'm okay. But Maya, he's got us zeroed. We're done. Maya looked through her scope, rangefinder blinking. 3,847 meters. The ghost's true nest, his real battlefield. A shot no human had ever dared in combat. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper, eyes never leaving the distant silhouette. Then I guess it's time to try the impossible. What do you do when physics itself tells you to stop? Maya's eye locked to the glass, her scope pressed deep against bone. The world narrowed to crosshairs and a speck on the eastern ridge. Her rangefinder blinked back a number she could hardly breathe around. 3,847 meters. Coughed beside her, blood slicking the granite, voice a rasp. Maya, that's beyond anything. Beyond human capability. Maya's jaw tightened. Maybe, but so was 3532. Her finger brushed the trigger, but she didn't fire. Not yet. Her instincts screamed too soon, too clean. The ghost wasn't just distance. He was deception. He was layers within layers. Through her scope, she watched him move with infuriating calm, repositioning, confident. The way he shifted told her everything. He wasn't just setting up for her. He was angling down. Toward the glass bubble, where 12 world leaders would be seated in minutes. Her stomach sank. He's exposing himself more than necessary. Why would he do that? Pressed her good hand to her bleeding shoulder, teeth grit. Because he doesn't care. He knows we can't hit him from here. No, Maya's voice dropped, steady but shaking. Because we're looking the wrong way. She pulled her eye back from the scope, forcing herself to see not the crosshairs but the whole board. The terrain, the ridges, the resort, the smoke curling from the downed helicopter, the counter-sniper teams forced into bad angles. It clicked. He's not trying to take the summit from long range, she whispered. He's clearing the board. His eyes widened. You mean? He's removing every piece that could stop him from getting close. He's turning long range into a distraction. The real plan, Maya's throat tightened, is infiltration. The comms flared with Kane's voice. Status. Maya's voice was sharp, urgent. General, evacuate the summit. Now, the ghost isn't here for a long shot. He's clearing us out so he can walk right in. Static crackled. Then Kane's iron tone came back. Negative, we don't move based on speculation. Too much diplomatic weight, too much risk. Too much risk, Maya snapped, fury cutting through her fear. With all respect, sir, 6 of your men just burned because you underestimated him. Don't make it 12 heads of state next. The radio erupted with chatter, teams reporting movement, confusion in multiple sectors. Then distant booms, smoke rising near the access road, explosives, sealing exits. Maya's gut turned to ice. He's already in motion. His breathing quickened, her face pale with blood loss. Maya, even if you hit him, even if you do the impossible, his team could already be inside. Maya pressed her cheek back to the stock, crosshairs settling. Her hands moved with mechanical precision, dialing elevation until the turret maxed out. She was pushing the rifle to limits it wasn't built for. He thinks distance makes him untouchable, she whispered. That physics itself is his shield. He doesn't know I grew up with physics. Tried to laugh but coughed instead, pain stealing the sound. You're insane. Completely. She began calculations, breath slow, her mind a storm of numbers and instincts. Bullet drop, 47 feet. Wind drift, over 8. Flight time, 4.1 seconds. Temperature shifting, pressure from clouds rolling in. The rifle in her hands was more math than metal now. And yet, there was something no formula could capture. The way heat shimmer bent air differently over granite than over snow. The subtle tug of microclimates. The heartbeat in her cheek against the stock. The ghost thought the world was equations. Maya knew it was also intuition. She murmured, "Can you still spot?" The spotter grunted, dragging her good arm across the scope. Barely steady, but I can call it. That's enough. The mountain fell silent except for their breathing. Even the radios seemed far away now. Maya's crosshairs tracked the ghost as he settled, confident, precise. He had already written the story in his head. The bartender-turned-sniper outplayed, her blood mixing with her spotter, on anonymous stone, while he walked into history. But stories weren't his alone to write. Wind, Maya asked. 15, shifting northwest to west, gusts unpredictable. His voice strained but clear. Cloud cover coming fast, light will change. Maya smiled grimly. Perfect. Perfect, that's a nightmare. No, that's opportunity. She waited, heart sinking with the rhythm of seconds. The ghost fired again, not at her this time, but at a distant counter-sniper nest. 43 seconds of silence would follow. It was her window. The clouds shifted, sliding over the sun. Light dimmed, air cooled, density changed just enough. Maya exhaled. The world shrank to crosshairs, to breath, to the faint silhouette on distant stone. "Send it," whispered. The rifle bucked, the sound swallowed by mountains. And then waiting. 4 seconds where the bullet lived alone in the sky, a streak of metal and physics. 4 seconds of silence, of doubt, of faith. The crack of impact echoed back a heartbeat later. Through her scope, Maya saw the ghost jerk. His rifle tumbled from his grip. His body slumped behind stone. Gasped Maya, "You hit him, you actually." But Maya's chest stayed tight, her finger frozen on the trigger guard. Something was wrong, too dramatic, too staged. Her gut clenched. "No," she breathed, "that wasn't him." Her radio flared alive. "Overwatch 7 to command. Northwest position confirms target is a decoy. Repeat, decoy." Maya's stomach dropped. Her scope whipped back toward the resort just in time to catch movement. 3 figures, maintenance uniforms, slipping in through a service entrance. Her voice was a whip into the comms. "Kane, get security on the resort now. He's inside, I say again. The ghost's real plan is close quarters." Static confusion. Then Kane's voice, harder than steel. "All units shift to internal security. Sweep every access point. Move." Maya's hands shook as adrenaline crashed into her. The ghost had played them all, forced their eyes outward while he walked inward. But something else pressed in, heavier than fear. Her shot, the impossible shot, had been wasted. She had given her best to a mannequin. Groaned beside her, voice thin. "Maya, don't blame yourself. Nobody else even saw it." Maya's jaw clenched, her eyes burning. "That's not good enough." Her scope swept back, searching, and then there. The real ghost, silhouette breaking from cover near the eastern ridge, moving to reposition. Overconfident, arrogant. He thought she was broken. But her rifle was still warm. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You made one mistake." Lifted her head weakly. "What's that?" "You assumed I'd think like a soldier." Her finger brushed the trigger. "But I'm not." Through her scope, she saw the ghost lifting his rifle, steady, deliberate. Another predator's breath. Maya's own breath matched his. 2 hunters mirrored by glass and distance. Only one would fire first. Only one would still be breathing when the echo faded. Who fires first? The thought pulsed through Maya's mind like a heartbeat, heavy, inescapable. Her cheek pressed to the stock, her crosshairs locked on the silhouette across nearly 4 kilometers of alpine air. The ghost was steady, patient, deliberate. He had done this before, a dozen times more. He was a predator who believed himself untouchable. But he had never met her. Beside her wheezed, blood seeping through fabric, but her good eye was still on the spotting scope. Her voice, strained but unwavering, anchored Maya. "Wind steady. 15. Gusting between northwest and west." Maya's breath came slow, her chest tight. "Distance." 3847, confirmed. Maya's fingers brushed the turret, her rifle pushed to mechanical limits. Beyond limits, really. She wasn't just testing her gear. She was testing physics. The ghost's rifle shifted. Through the shimmer, Maya saw the faintest tilt of his barrel. He was aiming, not at the resort, not at the summit, at her. Her pulse slowed. This was never about world leaders. Not yet. This was about dominance. Legacy. He wanted to erase the only threat to his legend. Her lips moved without sound. Not today. She waited. She had learned that from her grandfather. Shooting wasn't about speed. It was about patience, about breathing with the world until everything aligned. Whispered Maya, "He's nearly set. You've got seconds." Maya's chest rose, fell. Her lungs emptied. She found that stillness between breaths, that fleeting pause where the body disappears and only the shot remains. The ghost fired. The crack reached her ears nearly a second after the supersonic round tore stone inches from her scope. Pebbles rained across her face. Maya didn't flinch. Her finger squeezed. The rifle bucked and her world stilled. 4.1 seconds of silence. 4.1 seconds where a bullet flew through shifting winds, cold currents, the curvature of Earth itself. 4.1 seconds where doubt gnawed, whispering this was madness, this was impossible, this was suicide. Then impact. Her scope caught it, the ghost jerked, his shoulder exploding crimson, his body slamming against stone. His rifle tumbled away. Maya exhaled, trembling. Relief surged hot, almost dizzying. She had done it. She had matched him, beaten him. Gasped, "Maya, you hit him." But Maya's relief froze almost instantly. Because the ghost moved. Slowly, deliberately, he pushed himself up against the rock, blood pouring but alive. Through her scope she saw his face for the first time. Pale, calm, a faint smile twisting despite the wound. Her gut twisted. He wasn't retreating. He wasn't broken. He was buying time. The radio flared. Kane's voice was ragged, furious. "Report, did you get him?" Maya's voice was tight, controlled. "Wounded, not dead. And his team is already inside. Pull your people out of the resort before." Gunfire ripped through comms, screams, shouts in multiple languages, then static. Maya's blood went cold. He's already there. The wounded ghost lifted his hand slowly, deliberately, holding something reflective. A signal mirror. He angled it toward the resort, toward the glass bubble where leaders sat unaware of the storm descending. Maya's stomach sank. He was never alone. Inside the resort, chaos ignited. Swiss security forces scrambled as disguised maintenance workers dropped coveralls and drew suppressed weapons. Shots cracked, glass shattered, shouts in English, French, German, Russian. 3 men moved with terrifying precision, coordinated like dancers, cutting through layers of protection as if they weren't there. World leaders ducked beneath the glass conference table, aides screaming. Panic spread faster than orders. Over comms, Kane roared. "All units converge on the summit interior. We have active shooters inside." But Maya heard it differently. Not just orders, desperation. She tore her eye from the scope, staring at the gleaming resort below, a fragile jewel under assault. Her voice was low, urgent. "He's using distance as distraction, but his real art is close." Pressed a blood-soaked rag to her shoulder, eyes grim. "So what now? You can't get inside in time." Maya's hands tightened on the rifle. "Then we cut them down before they reach their targets." Blinked from here. Maya nodded. Through glass, through chaos, it's the only chance. She shifted her scope, tracing through the sprawling windows of the resort. Shadows moved inside, figures darting, weapons flashing. The angles were insane, narrow, ever-changing. She would have fractions of seconds before friend and foe blurred. Her mind screamed this wasn't possible, but then, what had been? Her voice steadied. "Call me targets." His face twisted with pain, but she bent to the scope, her voice a metronome. North quadrant, second window. Tall male, suppressed SMG, lining up on the dais. Maya's crosshairs found him. Glass shimmered between them. She exhaled, fired. The window burst into shards. The man collapsed mid-step. Confirmed, hissed. Next west side near buffet line. Shorter male, pistol drawn, moving fast. Maya swung, heart hammering. The figure blurred between panicked diplomats. Timing was impossible. She waited, 1 beat, 2. The man paused, weapon raised. She squeezed. The bullet punched glass, then bone. He dropped. Inside, chaos deepened. Leaders were being rushed toward exits, security shouting, but gunfire kept cutting through. "Third shooter," rasped, voice thin. "Main hall, upper balcony. rifle aimed at the conference table. Do you see him? Maya found him, a shadow perched above the panic, his barrel steady, his aim cold. Her chest locked. He had the French president dead to rights. She didn't breathe, didn't blink. She fired. The figure crumpled, falling from the balcony like a broken puppet. Silence filled her scope. Maya's body shook. 3 shots, 3 impossible threads through glass and chaos, but it wasn't over. Because the ghost was still watching. On the eastern ridge, he pressed a bloody hand to his shoulder, his pale eyes locked on her even across kilometers. Through her scope, Maya met that gaze, cold, sharp, but not surprised. This was never just about leaders, never just about her. This was about proving dominance, about carving legend into stone. And legends didn't end with one bullet. He lifted his rifle again, slow but deliberate despite blood pouring. He was hurt, but not out. His voice cracked. Maya, he's not stopping, he's going to fire again. Maya steadied her breathing. The duel wasn't finished, not until one of them no longer drew breath. Her finger brushed the trigger. Her lips whispered to herself, to her grandfather, to anyone listening. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. The ghost steadied. Maya steadied. And the world held its breath. How long could 2 people stare at each other through glass and distance, waiting to decide who deserved to keep breathing? Maya's crosshairs locked on his pale face, his rifle steady even as blood ran down his sleeve. The ghost was wounded, yes, but he was still alive, still calm, still dangerous. She could feel it through the scope, like the chill of a predator staring back. Shifted beside her, grimacing as she pressed a rag harder to her shoulder wound. He's still aiming at you, Maya. He doesn't care about the summit anymore. This is about pride. Maya's chest tightened. Pride, legacy, dominance. He didn't just want to kill her. He wanted to prove to himself, to the invisible world watching through whispers and dossiers, that he was untouchable. That even when wounded, even when matched, he remained the legend. But she had already made one impossible shot, and she knew she could again. She adjusted her elevation turret, listening to each mechanical click like a heartbeat. Every fraction mattered. At this range, even the rhythm of her pulse could send the bullet wide. "Wind?" she asked softly. Squinted through her spotter's scope, her voice ragged but steady. "Still northwest. 14 gusts to 16, shifting fast. You'll have a narrow window." Maya's eyes narrowed. Narrow's all I need. But as she steadied her breath, something flickered in her mind. A question she hadn't dared ask until now. Why had he signaled with that mirror earlier? The thought slid into her focus, cold and insistent. He wasn't a man who wasted movements. Every action had meaning. He signaled. Not to his team, they were already inside. Not to her, he didn't need to taunt. No, the signal had been to someone else. Her chest went cold. There's another layer. Maya's voice broke through. "What's wrong?" Maya didn't answer immediately. Her mind was racing, tracing the puzzle backward. The decoy, the mannequins, the infiltration. Everything had been misdirection stacked on misdirection, which meant, what was she not seeing right now? Through her scope, the ghost shifted slightly, blood dripping down stone. His faint smile never wavered. He was inviting her, daring her. "Because if I kill him," she whispered, almost to herself, "what if that's exactly what he wants?" Frowned. "What do you mean?" Maya's hand trembled on the trigger guard. "He could be stalling me, keeping my focus locked on him while something else happens closer." Her eyes darted through the scope past him, scanning ridges, valleys, shadows, but she saw nothing. No movement, no second shooter. Just him. The silence pressed heavy. The only sound was wind curling over stone. She exhaled slowly. "Maybe I'm wrong." "Or maybe you're right," muttered grimly. Maya steadied again, forcing herself back into the duel. There wasn't time for doubt. Inside the resort, chaos was still untangling. security forces shouting orders as leaders were rushed toward safety. The infiltration team had been stopped, yes, but if the ghost got one more shot through glass, if he could line up a target of opportunity, the entire world would still fracture. She had to end it. Her crosshairs centered on his chest. Her lungs emptied. Her finger curled. The rifle cracked, bucking against her shoulder. 4.1 seconds of silence. And then impact. The ghost's body snapped backward, crimson blooming wide. His rifle clattered across stone. His head lolled, still. Let out a sharp, ragged breath. Maya, you did it. He's down. He's. But Maya didn't lower her scope. She didn't trust it. Not yet. Her crosshairs stayed glued to him, watching. The seconds stretched, her pulse hammering. His body didn't move, didn't twitch. And yet, her gut screamed, it's too easy. She whispered, that's not him. Blinked, pale and sweating. Maya, you just put a bullet through his chest. Who else would it be? Maya's eyes narrowed, the smile. That faint, mocking smile he'd worn even while bleeding. She had seen it before, in the photographs, at every crime scene, always that smile. She pulled her head back from the scope, her voice shaking. He knew he couldn't outshoot me forever, so he left me something to shoot. His brow furrowed, a double. Or a body he staged, someone he wanted us to think was him. Maya's stomach turned. The real ghost could already be gone. Her comms crackled suddenly with Kane's voice. Status, did you eliminate him? Maya's voice was tight. Negative, target unconfirmed, the body's wrong, this isn't over. Static, then Kane's furious roar. Damn it, we don't have time for doubts. But Maya cut him off, her tone sharper than she'd ever used with any commanding officer. It's not doubt, it's instinct, and if you ignore it, you'll get people killed. The silence on the channel was brief but heavy. Then Kane growled, what do you propose? Maya swept her scope across the ridges, her breath short, mind racing. We search for movement. He'll want to finish this with his own hands. He won't walk away without proving he's the best. Her words barely left her lips before stiffened. Maya, east slope, near the tree line, movement. Maya swung her rifle instantly, her heart leaping. And there, slipping between pines, a silhouette too controlled, too precise to be anything but him. The ghost. Alive, moving closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He's going for the resort. The forest swallowed him, branches bending like conspirators. He moved like water, every step measured, even wounded. Through her scope, Maya tracked him, breath shallow. He was angling down toward the service road that led straight to the conference wing. Hissed, you can't get a clear shot through those trees. Maya's teeth clenched. Then I'll take it when I can. She tracked him through gaps, catching flashes of his pale face, his rifle slung as he moved with frightening ease despite blood loss. He wasn't fast, but he was relentless. The leaders inside had minutes, maybe less. Her chest burned. Her rifle was almost useless here, too much cover, too much interference. But she couldn't stop, she couldn't blink. Because if he made it inside, no bullet would match her. Through her scope she caught it, a clearing, brief, narrow, a window of opportunity. The ghost paused for a fraction of a second, scanning his own surroundings. Maya's breath stilled. She fired. The shot tore through branches, splintering wood, but when the air cleared, he was gone. Vanished into the forest. Her chest collapsed inward, fury and fear tangling. Damn it. Pressed trembling fingers against her comms. Kane. He's moving toward the resort on the east slope. He's still alive. He's still coming. Static flared, then Kane's voice. All units converge east slope. Lock down the resort interior. But Maya knew it wouldn't be enough. Because this wasn't just about stopping him. This was about outthinking him. And she had only one shot left. Maya closed her eyes for half a heartbeat, hearing her grandfather's voice again. The world will ask more of you than you think you can give. That's when you find out who you are. Her eyes opened, hard, clear. I'm not a soldier, she whispered. I'm a bartender with a rifle, and physics doesn't scare me. Through her scope she searched, and then she found him. The ghost had slipped into position above the resort's eastern glass wall, crouched, rifle raised. The leaders inside were still being shuffled, frantic security scrambling. He was lining up. Maya's pulse steadied, her finger curled. But then her heart dropped, because she realized something. He wasn't aiming at the leaders. He was aiming at her. Through glass, through chaos, through 4 kilometers of alpine air, he was still fixated on her. It was never about them. It was always about her. Her lips parted, a whisper of defiance, then let's end it. Her crosshairs found his chest, his found hers. And both hunters fired. What does it feel like when death races toward you at the speed of sound? Maya didn't have time to think, only to feel. The crack of her own rifle was still echoing across stone when she heard it, the high, slicing whistle of the ghost's bullet closing distance. She dropped her cheek off the stock an instant before impact. The round smashed rock inches from her head, spraying granite chips across her face. Fire seared her cheek where a shard cut deep, warm blood running hot. Her own bullet. It kept flying, unseen, unknowable, 4.1 seconds of prayer stitched into copper and steel. Then impact. Through her scope, half blind from pain, she saw the ghost jerk. His body folded, his rifle twisting from his grip. For the first time in the long duel, he crumpled without control. Her chest heaved, she had hit him. But she wasn't breathing relief yet. His voice rasped from beside her, weak but cutting through. Did you get him? Maya blinked blood from her eye, forcing her scope back on target. The ghost lay sprawled across rock, crimson pooling fast beneath him. He wasn't moving, not twitching. Her gut tightened. Was this another layer, another decoy? Her lips pressed thin. Not until I see him stop breathing. She kept the scope trained, every second dragging like an hour. And then after what felt like forever, she saw it, his chest rising. Once, twice, slower each time, his pale face tilted, lips curving with that same infuriating half-smile. Even in death, he was taunting her. Maya's throat clenched. She whispered into the cold mountain air, not this time. The smile faded, his chest stilled. And the ghost was gone. The silence after was unbearable. No gunfire, no movement, only the whistle of wind against granite. Maya finally lowered her rifle, her hands trembling so violently she nearly dropped it. She pressed her palm to her cheek, feeling blood, grit, and pain. She should have been dead, if she hadn't moved when she did. Her body shook. Fear she hadn't allowed during the fight came flooding back, crashing over her like an avalanche. She had stared at death across kilometers, and both of them had fired into eternity. Only she was still here. His broken voice pulled her back. You did it, you stopped him. Maya turned, was pale, fatting fast, her uniform soaked with blood. Maya crawled to her, pressing hands against the wound, desperate, refusing to accept. Stay with me. We're not done, you hear me? You're not done. His lips trembled into the faintest smile. Bartenders got hands like a medic. Shut up, Maya whispered fiercely, her own tears cutting through dirt. You're going to make it, you are. But's eyes were heavy, her hand weak as it reached for Maya's wrist. Listen, you didn't just hit a record today. You saved them, all of them. Maya's chest broke. Not if I lose you. Coughed, the sound ragged. That's not your choice. Maya shook her head, pressing harder. No, I'm not losing anyone else, not today. The radio flared alive, Kane's voice hard but hoarse. Report. Maya's voice snapped through tears. Ghost down. Repeat, Ghost is down, but we need a medevac now, is critical. Silence, then Kane's voice cracked with urgency. On it, stay alive, both of you. Below, the resort was chaos. Security forces flooded rooms, dragging shattered glass from their shoes as leaders were escorted to armored convoys. Smoke hung in the air, the acrid stench of gunpowder lingering. Somewhere in the confusion, people already whispered that the ghost was dead, that a single shot from an unknown woman had stopped the world from unraveling, that history had just been bent by someone no one had seen coming. Maya didn't hear it, didn't want to. She sat on cold stone, his head in her lap, her rifle discarded at her side. Every second stretched, her mind torn between relief and grief, victory and loss. Her cheek throbbed, her body ached, but the real wound was inside. She thought of her grandfather, of the way he used to polish glasses behind the bar, telling her that life didn't care about fairness, that all you could do was show up with dignity, even when no one noticed. She had shown up today, but at what cost? Her hand brushed his forehead. "Stay with me," she whispered again, a prayer more than command. Minutes later, the thump of rotor blades grew louder. Medevac birds descending, their sound slicing the sky. Dust whipped across the ridge as black silhouettes approached. Kane's voice cracked over the comms. "Hold your position, your priority pickup." She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed locked on the blood soaking through her fingers. She wasn't leaving without her. The helicopters hovered, ropes dropping. Medics in black slid down, faces hard, movements precise. They rushed to first, hands already moving with practiced urgency. Maya let them take over, her body collapsing back against stone, exhaustion flooding her limbs. Kane's boots crunched across granite seconds later. He was bigger than she expected, his presence like weight pressing the air. He looked at the medics, then at her. His face was unreadable. Finally, he said, "You went beyond orders, beyond reason." Maya lifted her blood-streaked face, too tired to mask defiance. "If I hadn't, you'd be zipping up body bags right now." For a long moment, silence stretched between them, wind curling, rotors chopping. Then Kane's jaw tightened. He nodded once. "You're right." He looked back toward the horizon where the ghost's body lay sprawled, a crimson stain against gray stone. "You killed a myth today. You understand what that means." Maya's throat was raw, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't do it for myths. I did it because no one else could." Kane studied her for a long, heavy moment. Then he crouched, his voice low, almost human. "And that's exactly why they'll never let you go back to pouring drinks again." Her stomach turned cold. Because she knew he was right. Hours later, the summit was evacuated, the resort abandoned to investigators and soldiers. The mountains, once echoing with gunfire, were quiet again. But in that silence, Maya sat alone on a helicopter's bench, strapped beside her with medics working frantically. Kane across from her, his eyes sharp, watching her like an asset rather than a person. Her cheek was bandaged, her body shaking, but her mind was elsewhere. She thought of the ghost's final look, that half-smile even as blood left him. It haunted her. A question lingered in it. Had she won? Or had she only stepped into the space he wanted her to fill? Night fell before they reached the base. Floodlights carved long shadows as they landed, medics rushing into a waiting surgical team. Maya tried to follow, but Kane's hand gripped her shoulder firm. "You need to debrief," he said. Maya shook him off, fury breaking through exhaustion. "She needs me." "And the world needs to know what happened today," Kane countered, his voice sharp. "Do you think you get to walk away? Do you think anyone will let you?" Her body trembled, not from fear but from rage. "I never asked for this." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Neither did anyone you saved." For a moment she almost struck him, almost let fury break through restraint. But then she saw being wheeled away, her hand twitching once on the stretcher as if reaching. Maya's chest broke open again. She swallowed hard, turned, and walked away. Later, alone in a dim barracks room, Maya sat with her rifle across her knees. The weight of it felt different now. Not a tool, not even a weapon, a burden. She whispered to the empty air, "What now?" The silence offered no answer. Only the faint echo of her grandfather's words returned. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. Her hands tightened on the rifle. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if dignity had cost too much. What happens when the silence finally catches up with you? For Maya, it came the night after the duel. The barracks were still, the base reduced to hushed movements of medics, guards, and shadows. Her cheek burned where shrapnel had kissed it, her body stiff with exhaustion, but it was the quiet that cut deepest. All day she'd been swept along by other people's urgency. Commanders barking for reports, medics checking her wounds. Kane's constant stare, not of admiration but of calculation. She moved from room to room like someone underwater, hearing everything through distance, answering only because silence would have been worse. Now there was no one left to answer, only her and the rifle leaning against the wall. Her hand twitched toward it, then stopped. She didn't want to touch it, didn't want to see the scope, the barrel, the metal that had turned her into someone she wasn't sure she recognized. Instead, she sat on the narrow cot, elbows on her knees, palms covering her face. Her chest rose once, twice, then shook. The tears came without warning, hot and unstoppable, cutting down her blood-stained cheek. She had held herself together through the mission, through the impossible shots, through the ghost's final stare. But here alone she couldn't hold the dam. Her sobs were raw, quiet, like a wound being torn open. Because the truth pressed down in ways no briefing could erase. She had killed a man. Not just any man. A myth, a legend, someone whispered in fear by entire governments. And even if he deserved it, even if he would burn the world if she hadn't stopped him, the weight still landed on her shoulders. The world would call it justice. History would call it necessary, but she knew what it really was. A life ended by her hand. Hours blurred. At some point she must have drifted into uneasy sleep because she woke to Kane's voice outside her door. He wasn't shouting. He didn't need to. His presence filled the air even through wood. "Command wants you in the war room, now." She wiped her face quickly, forcing the soldier back over the broken woman. Her voice cracked as she answered, "On my way." When she entered, the war room was already full. Screens glowed with satellite feeds of the Alps, aerial views of the resort, maps littered with red circles. Officers murmured, aides typed. At the center, Kane, leaning over the table, his gaze locking on her the moment she stepped inside. "Sit." She obeyed, not out of respect, out of exhaustion. He clicked a remote, bringing up an image of the ghost's body draped now in a tarp labeled with tags. "He's confirmed. DNA matches, scars match, you killed him." The room was silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward her, as if expecting her to make a speech, as if she had something profound to say. All she could manage was a whisper, "He shouldn't have taken so long to die." A ripple passed through the officers. Some nodded, some frowned. Kane only studied her. Finally he said, "You ended the most dangerous assassin alive. And you did it as a civilian, a bartender, a weekend reservist who was never supposed to be here. Do you understand how rare that is? How valuable?" Her throat tightened. She wanted to say she wasn't valuable, she was tired, broken, lucky, but the words caught. Kane leaned closer. "You think this was the end. It's not, it's the beginning. Command wants you activated full-time, not as backup, as." Her chest hollowed, activated, not asked, not invited, demanded. "I didn't choose this," she said, her voice barely above air. Kane's eyes hardened. "Neither did the world leaders who almost died yesterday. Neither did who bled beside you. Choice is a luxury. Responsibility is." Her fists clenched against her knees. She wanted to argue, to scream, to walk out. But the memory of his pale face on that ridge, whispering that Maya had saved them all, it held her back. Because maybe Kane was right. And maybe that was the worst part. The following days blurred into interrogation and media silence. Official reports were crafted carefully, her name scrubbed, replaced by phrases like classified marksman or unidentified operator. The world would never know who had pulled the trigger, at least not yet. But rumors spread anyway. Soldiers whispered in hallways. Journalists hinted in coded phrases. Some already called her the weekend warrior, though none of them knew her face. She wanted to disappear back into anonymity, back to her bar, to the clink of glasses and the smell of whiskey, to the comfort of obscurity. But every hour that passed made that fantasy dimmer. Because Kane was right again, they weren't going to let her go. The only light in the dark was. She survived surgery. Barely. The bullet had torn through muscle and lung, but the medics fought and her body fought harder. Maya visited her in the sterile hum of recovery, sitting by her bed while machines beeped and monitors flickered. Skin was pale, her breath shallow, but her eye opened when Maya entered. "You look worse than me," rasped, a ghost of humor in her voice. Maya smiled weakly, though tears pressed hot again. "Don't try to make me laugh, you'll choke." His hand found hers, weak but real. "You did it." Maya shook her head. "We did it." His lips twitched. "No, I spotted, you shot, that's all you." Silence hung for a long time. Machines beeped. Air hissed. Finally whispered, "Don't let them own you." Maya blinked. "What?" "They're already circling. Kane, command. They'll tell you you're too valuable to waste. But you don't belong to them, you belong to you, don't forget that." Maya's throat closed. She nodded, though inside doubt twisted. Could she really say no, after what she'd done, after what she'd proven? Squeezed her hand once more, weak but fierce. "You stopped him, that's enough. Don't let them make you more." Weeks passed. The world moved on. Leaders shook hands in safer rooms, security forces rewrote protocols, journalists filled headlines with other crises. But Maya didn't move on. She trained under Kane's watch, pushed harder than ever. Not because she wanted to, because she was told to. Because now, whenever she closed her eyes, she saw the ghost's pale smile in the crosshairs. She heard whisper. She felt her grandfather's words echoing. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. And she didn't know anymore if acting meant resisting or surrendering. The final reckoning came one gray morning, months after the summit. Kane called her into his office. Papers lay on the desk. A contract, an activation order, her name bold at the top. He slid it toward her. "Sign, and you become what you were always meant to be." Maya stared at the paper, at the pen, at the neat, final lines of ink waiting for her. Her chest ached. Was this it? Was this who she was now? Her mind replayed everything. Its warning, Kane's demand, the ghost's smile, her grandfather's dignity. She picked up the pen. Then slowly she set it back down. Kane's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "I won't be your myth, I won't be your weapon. You asked me to act, I did, but that doesn't mean I'm yours." Kane leaned back, studying her. For a moment his expression darkened, storm heavy in his gaze. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. "Good," he said softly. "That's the answer I wanted." She blinked. "What?" He stood, folding the paper neatly. The ghost was dangerous because he believed he belonged only to himself. If you'd signed without hesitation, you'd have been no different. But the fact that you resisted, that's what makes you useful. That's what makes you human. Her jaw clenched. So this was another test. Kane shrugged. "Everything is." She hated him in that moment. Hated his games, his manipulation, his endless tests. But beneath the hate was something worse, the fear that he was right again. That night Maya sat outside under the stars, the rifle beside her. She thought of the ghost, of Kane, of the world that would never know her name. She breathed the cold air, letting silence settle deep. And she realized something. She couldn't undo what she had done. She couldn't erase the ghost's death, or the leader she'd saved, or the myth she had become. But she could choose each day not to let those things own her. Not Cain, not command, not even history. Her grandfather's voice returned, softer now, almost a lullaby. Dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. And for the first time since the shot, she understood. It wasn't about the world knowing. It wasn't about Cain's approval or command's demands. It was about her, quietly, stubbornly, choosing to remain herself, even when the world wanted otherwise. She picked up the rifle, ran her hand along its cold length. And then she stood, walking back into the shadows. Not as myth, not as legend, not as weapon. As Maya. Just a woman, a weekend warrior who, when the world demanded too much, simply acted. And maybe that was enough. Maybe it always had been.